Welcome back to second semester. Let's talk safety. So it is required by law that we as a school practice drills of all kinds, fire, lockdown, evacuations, and every year, and actually multiple times a year, the rules change a little bit in order to make sure that we have the best safety procedures. So I'm going to take some time to go over what those safety procedures are that have been communicated to me from district. And so this is important information for not just students, but for also staff and students. You can let your parents know that this is something that you are reviewing at school. So I want to go ahead and show you this particular screen. We're going to go through. In your classroom, there's posters that have these different icons on it, and we're going to go through what they mean. So we're talking about emergency response protocols for students. This poster is in every single classroom on campus, and so you'll see that the hands are related to a threat. The purple lock is to lockdown. The green people are not aliens. They are in fact for an evacuation. The orange with the little roof is for shelter, and the medical sign is in fact for medical emergencies. So we want to make sure that we know exactly what we're talking about, that everybody here has the same shared vocabulary. So this was designed by first responders, so police and fire, to make sure that students and staff know exactly what we are talking about when we are going through and having an emergency event. So it's shared with first responders, with students, with staff and teachers, with parents. And so when we talk about 4 actions, we're talking about a threat, a lockdown, an evacuation, and a shelter. So each action, when it is announced, is followed by a specific directive. So a threat would be, the directive would be given to students, staff, or school on how to act. For a lockdown, it would be locks, lights, and out of sight, and that's what you need to remember. Teachers, they're kind of like, lights on, lights off, locks, lights, out of sight. So don't worry about turning the lights on or off. Just make sure that you are locked and that you are out of sight. That when there is an evacuation, the directive will be to go to a certain place, like we did with our evacuation to the church parking lot. It was announced that we would be evacuating to the church. And for shelter, this is for hazard or safety. If there's a flood, if there is an electrical issue, if any type of hazardous situation, we would need to relocate for a shelter. So there are specific instructions, and these are kind of where things change a little bit. So the specific instructions that change. So what is a threat? It's when somebody is wanting to do harm to school, staff member, or a student. And what happens is when we have a threat, the specific action would then be to go into a lockdown, where locks, lights, out of sight. And why would we go into a lockdown? Well, it would mean that that threat is going to have something dangerous. There's going to be something dangerous in the building, and so we would need to lock down. So if there is something worse, there are different types of lockdowns. We might have a modified lockdown where teachers can continue teaching within that space, or if there is a full lockdown, it would mean that it would be students would stay out of sight of windows. So some classrooms here on campus have windows. You would want to make sure that if somebody was looking in, they couldn't see you. Students in the classroom need to be completely silent. If somebody is knocking on the door, do not open the door for anyone. Even if somebody's standing outside the door and they're saying, I'm a student, or if they're identifying themselves and they say their name, don't open the door. And I know that seems very cruel, but we can't open the door for anyone because it puts everybody else in jeopardy in that classroom. So there are differences between modified lockdown and full lockdown. We did discuss that. A modified means that teachers can be teaching in the classroom or to be having quiet conversations, but a full lockdown would mean that you are out of sight, that you are completely quiet. It's important to know that phones are in complete silent mode. If you're outside, the thing that you need to do is you need to get to a classroom before it is locked down. If you are locked down, if we are locked down and you're outside, you need to find cover as far as like a tree or bleachers or that type of thing. If there's no teacher, that doesn't mean you need to go find a teacher. We're 13 and 14-year-olds or older, so that means that you know at this point in time, having been through lockdown situations before, what is expected of you. It's to be safe and to be orderly. So find a classroom, find a space to take cover. If you're in the hallway and you are locked out of a classroom, you can go ahead and you can find if there's a closet, if there's a bathroom, if there's an open door or open classroom, get in there. You need to find a place. If you cannot find a place that you can go into to hide, we have those side hallways, and getting to those side hallways so you're not in a main hallway would be the priority. Okay, so here's a big question. What if the fire alarm sounds when you're in a full lockdown? Well, unfortunately, there have been times where there are people who are threatening a campus who will, in order to get people to come out, will set the fire alarms out. If a fire alarm sounds when you're in a lockdown, do not leave the room. So let me repeat that. If you are in a lockdown and in a full lockdown, even a modified lockdown has been announced, do not leave with a fire alarm. And the question, the discussion, can we text our parents? I'm going to be honest with you. I know that there's not a lot of ways to police this. It's not a power struggle that I'm looking to have. I know that texting, communicating with parents can alleviate some stress, but please keep in mind that if you are on your phone, that you are not paying attention to the teacher's directions, you might find yourself distracted and be in the way of a window, and it could mean that you are making noises on your phone that could attract the threat to you. So the best thing to do is to wait to text until the end of the event. So in the event of an evacuation, an evacuation will always come with an announced location to go. So students, you need to be listening to the instructions that are provided, because it would be really awkward for you to go to the church if the evacuation was announced to the football field. So there's no reason for you to leave, to take your stuff with you. The objective is to get away and for your own personal safety. I guarantee you everything in your backpack can be replaced, but you cannot. So leave your stuff behind, even if it's a drill. Listen for directions, because the teachers will be giving them to you. Now, if the police are doing an evacuation, evacuation is a little bit different, and this is where there are some new policies in place. You need to make sure that your hands are visible. If the police are calling an evacuation and you have police outside, you need to keep your hands visible. And the reason why is because there are times where if there is a threat, if there's an active shooter on campus, they can blend in with students, and so keeping your hands up so they know that you are not a threat is an important action, because it shows that you do not have a weapon that you're going to use. You're leaving your stuff behind because you also don't want the police to think that you have something like a backpack or a jacket. If you're carrying your jacket, that you would have something that you could be hiding a weapon in. You can bring your phone. We know that technology to be able to stay in contact with people is important. I will tell you that on a previous campus, we did have an event where we did have to evacuate off campus. And honestly, having student technology made it easier when we were communicating with parents and getting information. So that's up to you. Don't be surprised if the police are loud and they are shouting at you. So when there is, or if there ever was an event, you would need to expect that there's going to be a lot of confusion, there's a lot of emotion, and so in order to provide clear direction, the police might be yelling at students or staff, giving them directions. The other thing that we need to do is there's some discussion here as far as what can you take with you, and I'm going to present these questions so you can discuss as a class, because I can't really discuss with you right now through video. Why do we keep our hands visible? What will the police do? And I want you to talk about why and what that could be like and what you would imagine that and what you've seen on the news and movies and all of those types of things. The last bit we're going to talk about is shelter and hazard and safety strategy. Like I said, another school that I've been at had we actually had an electrical issue that turned into a fire issue, and so these things do happen. We even had one here about 4 years ago where there was an AC unit that people thought was on fire. It was just kind of smoky, but what happened was we have to practice these and know these strategies because they do happen. So what is a hazard? It is a danger or a risk. The safety strategy, there will always be some type of action or plan to remain safe. So if it's relocating you to a different part of the building or doing some type of evacuation, that could be done. So examples would be floods. The goal here is to get to high ground. The picture that's here is an actual picture of a school parking lot, and if you've seen our school parking lot, you know that when there's heavy rains, it can look similar to this. During a hazard, you're going to do what this cool kid does, and they are always listening for instructions. Instructions will be given, and it's important in classrooms that I know that sometimes things get really exciting and you're like, oh my gosh, there's an emergency, things are happening, but you have to be quiet for announcements. Be prepared for anything unexpected. We might tell you, like, go to, the south side of campus by the trees, and you've never practiced a drill there, but we need you to get there for safety. So again, discussion questions that I'm going to put on a screen at the end, but what are other hazards and safety strategies? So here's the shared lexicon. I've shared it with you between the students, staff, and first responders so we know what each other is talking about. So our school has one more action and directive, and that is medical emergency. So if there's a medical emergency and somebody were to fall down or to be incapacitated, here are the directions. First, do not move the person. Find an adult, tell your teacher, call the office, call 911 if needed. And that would be the expectation. You just want to get the adult. So 4 actions: threat, lockdown, evacuate, shelter. And then what you need to know is all of these protocols are prepared for, they're presented in your classroom, and you need to let your parents know that these are the protocols that have been shared with you, because we want your parents to know that there is a plan, and the best way to communicate that there is a plan is for it to go through you. So that is all I have for our safety presentation. I wanted you to be aware that there is something here for everyone, and if you have any questions, you know where to find me. In a minute, we'll have some discussion questions for you to chat over with your classmates and your teacher. Thank you.